To me, this situation is a blood-soaked, nightmarish hellscape.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Colorless Superfriends Round 3 in the Timeless format. Now I just love this deck. It has it all. It has Planeswalkers, utility mana base, one rings, lots of powerful stuff. But the reason I wanted to revisit it was that we just got Warping Wail on Arena. So it's a colorless instant that can take care of small creatures, counter sorceries, or make a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion. And it just helps shore up the poor combo matchup and helps out like against the aggro decks. I was just super excited once we got this, and I think it really helps strengthen this core game plan. Not only that, but we recently got Ugin Eye of Storms that I wanted to try out, and used to have 4 Ugin the Spirit Dragon, so like honestly not quite sure what the ratio should be, but decided to split it, and let's jump into some games. So this is a pretty reasonable hand, but not a fast hand. Like we don't have a Devourer to try and like set up our draw. We don't have a Labyrinth. But I really love Chalice. Well, there's the Devourer, just not where it needs to be. No companion information. Like if you see Lure's companion, then like you know Chalice is gonna be super strong. So, but seeing a red-black land also indicates it's gonna be pretty strong. A lot of black's strongest spells in this format are like 1 mana. So we're gonna slam the turn 2 Chalice for 1 and hope that carries us somewhat. And the opponent plays a Bitter Reunion. And they pitch a Breaker of Creation, which is a pretty crazy Eldrazi from MH3, so can gain them a ton of life upon cast, but most importantly has Hexproof for monocolored and Annihilator 2, so a pretty nasty reanimator target. We have to remember that Bitter Reunion can also do on-demand haste, so we need some mana source. We got some heavy hitters in hand. We just need to play the Mind Stone, hold up Warping Wail to see, like we might be able to. Well, we don't have to worry about Ragavan because Chalice has this covered. So, and the opponent plays into Chalice. Now, you know, this might just be a mistake. Maybe they haven't played against it that much. But there are reasons to load up the graveyard for certain cards. Usually like red-white, like there's like Flage, or there's Delirium for Dragon's Rage Channeler, you know. So, you never know, but we at least, we could see what the opponent's intending to do right there with that Breaker of Armies. So, seems like a good spot to slam Karn, the Great Creator. It does put his sort of like shields down as far as Warping Wail, but it just seems like we gotta do something. But there is an argument for being more patient there, but I'm feeling pretty safe with Chalice locked down. So grab the Forsaken Monument from the Wish board, and Karn is going to fall to Orcish Bowmaster, so it takes 1 damage off the ping, and it's going to eat an attack from both of them. So had we held up Warping Wail, we could have preserved Karn or stopped this. So the opponent has a Persist to get the Breaker into play, and then they give it haste off Bitter Reunion. So all of a sudden, when I was thinking we were doing pretty dang good, now it's a catastrophe. So the opponent's setting up their attacks, and we get an Annihilator 2 trigger to figure out. So Karn's dying no matter. So like Karn's an easy one to sacrifice, but I'm like planning ahead and realizing like we need our mana sources in order to do anything. So like we're gonna have to just give up the safety net of Chalice, because the only way we can maybe come back is by slamming Monument next turn and letting that, you know, boost our mana through getting hit with Annihilator multiple times. So we're gonna eat a chunk of damage here. 1 ring is pretty good, but it's just not good enough here because the Annihilator triggers that backbreaking. Would have loved a land here to go like Forsaken Monument into Warping Wail, you know, just make some things happen. But I'm just thinking ahead through like the next turn. So we're gonna have to sacrifice 2 permanents no matter what. And right now it's gonna be 2 mana sources. So we'll have 6 mana next turn, barring some other like hasty Eldrazi. And you know, we lost our Chalice for 1, and now the opponent's it's unshackled all their Faithless Lootings and other stuff. So we could see some more crazy Reanimator targets hit the bin. Alright, so Faithless Looting into the Faithless Looting flashback. We see some more like crazy Reanimator targets. Seemed like a Jin Gataxis was in there. And here's the Annihilator 2 once again. Now thankfully we have a little bit of life to work with, but we're going to sack the Mind Stone and one of the lands. Alright, so we drew out Ugin's Labyrinth. And so I hesitate here because usually like always want to tuck something under it, but like we gotta remember like there's the Annihilator triggers, and like
our mana is being doubled off the monument. And the thing I'm worried about is, like, do we actually need both our 7 mana spells, like, right on time? Like, because, like, we need to get the Bowmasters out of here to unleash the One Ring. And it'd be nice to get Devourer of Destiny into play to, like, rumble with the Eldrazi. Because with Forsaken Monument, the Devourer actually outsizes the Breaker on the other side. So this is me trying to figure out, should I tuck something? And it doesn't really, at the moment, seem to do anything for our mana. Like, if we play it, it's like a soul land anyway because of Forsaken Monument. So that's what I'm running through all the possibilities here. And eventually decide the play here is to drop Labyrinth and not tuck anything. So that's what I do here. Because we need these 7 mana spells to start battling with their stuff. Ugin can gain us some life also. So gonna cast Devourer here, and it's gonna pad our life total a little bit, get rid of Bowmasters, and more importantly, like, give us a threatening blocker for the Breaker of Creation. So that was like a pretty clutch turn right there. So we have to see if the opponent has anything nasty fall. Okay, so they're just gonna send in. We have to sacrifice 2 things. We're just gonna 2 lands are gonna bite the dust, taking our least consequential lands out of here. Gonna line up the block. And if they have a bolt or something, you know, then... Okay, so they have another Bowmaster. So they're going to take down our Devourer. But at least the Breaker is now gone. Bracing for impact, like, because, you know, Reanimate could work. But the opponent has another Bitter Reunion. Pitching a Gamble, interestingly. And they've got a Faithless Looting. So we could see how strong Chalice was against him. Like, it was really locking him down. But they are running Persist also, so, like... Chalice on 1 is not completely effective against them. So I'm trying to think about what to do here. So the opponent does have a Bowmasters in play. So, like, if we draw out the One Ring, like, we have to remember that. So Monument's going to gain us some life. We're going to slam the One Ring. And then I remember to slam Zhalfirin Void. And then I see Chalice of the Void. And we've already seen how many ones their deck has. Like, they're full of Faithless Lootings and Reanimates, Gamble. So they still have at least 3 Reanimates in their deck, and they've done a lot of digging. So I was going to just Warping Wail away the, what's it called? The Bowmaster, so I can draw without growing their Arc Army. But then I realized it's probably more important to Chalice for 1, because that shuts down the Reanimate to put another Breaker into play, and then we have to deal with that over again. Right now, if we get a Chalice for 1, then it's like Persist or Bust as far as they're concerned. So... And we have Ring Protection, so we're not taking, like, damage from the Bowmaster. So we're going to slam a Chalice for 1 and try and, like, hit the brakes on what they're trying to do over there. And we have 1 turn of Ring Protection. So right now we just want to rip a land so we could slam Ugin. Alright, so opponent fires off Buried Alive. Dump some Trolls in the graveyard and some other stuff. And, yeah, as we're trying to figure out what to do on our turn, we're definitely going to... probably lead with the Warping Wail. It would be nice to get Ugin down. We just have to be a little bit careful with our life total, because the opponent has some, like, surprising things and a haste enabler in play. So have to be careful about that. But as we get rid of their creature, I'll link a Reanimator deck of my own right here. It's definitely a fun strategy in Timeless. Okay, so we did find a mana source here. Zhalfirin Void. Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Think about it for a while and, like, ultimately decided to keep it because it would be nice to get rid of the Bitter Reunion and, like, the surprise haste that grants. But Kozilek's command is going to be massive here. It's like it's already a strong card, but it really goes wild with Forsaken Monument. Not only because you have way more mana to pay into the X, but also because the Scions or the Eldrazi spawn that it makes are actually 2/3s. So what I'm doing here, figuring out the modes, but clearly the best are to take care of their creature and to create a bunch of Eldrazi spawn. So I'm just trying to make sure with the mana doubling I got everything calculated out right, but we're going to be able to make 4 Eldrazi spawn and take care of their army. And the nice thing is with Forsaken Monument, and yeah, the opponent just packs it up. So that was a crazy win, surviving multiple Annihilator attacks. So that was awesome. Next game, this hand looks way better. We have the Devourer plus Labyrinth combo.
And the question is, do we want to keep anything here? So we are playing a Lurrus deck, and like, what we really want is Chalice. So I'm actually going to just decline here, and just at least digs us possibly closer to a Chalice. And before we get hit with like a Thoughtseize or something, going to tuck a Devourer under Labyrinth, play out our Guardian Idol, and pass. Now, this is sort of like, you know, we're really relying on this Kozilek's command to like find us more action. Like we need like a One Ring or something. So like a Thoughtseize here would be pretty devastating, because then we wouldn't have like really anything going for us. Right, so the opponent's gonna play a Dragon's Rage Channeler and a Mishra's Bauble. They're gonna Surveil, and they're just gonna crack the Bauble right away. So we have the mana at the moment. We just need, you know, a One Ring or a Karn, or maybe even a big Ugin, because we already have like a lot of mana. Alright, so there's the Zhalfirin Void. Definitely going to just play that because it's known information, and we want the Scry. Anyway, we're trying to actively find some card draw. Then I see a Warping Wail. I'm like, okay, well, I guess, you know, that should be pretty strong against a Lurrus deck. Honestly, though, I think... I thought about it for a while, but I think I should have just bottomed it, because what we need is like a One Ring. We're already sort of flooding out right here with Mind Stone and 2 lands in hand. Not to mention, like, we can answer the Dragon's Rage Channeler right here with Kozilek's command. I'm just going to do it right now before they get any more Surveil value. And then see Ugin's Labyrinth. At this point, I decided, you know, I don't really want the Warping Wail. Like, we need more card draw. So it would have been better to scry that away earlier, because we could have dug 1 card deeper, and then we just draw a land right there. So we could have surveilled 2 lands away and drawn whatever's next. So that sort of misplay was a little costly. Alright, so Kori Steelcutter on 2 into Mishra's Bauble, and as the opponent launches in, if you like seeing colorless decks on the battlefield, please Rashad and port the like button. Now, Kori Steelcutter is just a cracked card. It is super strong. Most of my interaction with it has been in Tarkir Dragonstorm Draft, but I mean, we pair it with Mishra's Baubles and zeros like Chrome Box, like it can really go wild. So we draw yet another land. We surveil, scry another land away. So despite all the scrying and surveilling, we are sort of out of action. Now, we could have played the Mutavault to like threaten a block. Like, we have the Guardian Idol, so like I am willing to put that in front of a monk token if it's safe. But the thing is, they have prowess. So Steelcutter's going to make another one. So I will gladly trade away the Guardian Idol here, because we have like no action, like just to take some heat off us. If I know they're not going to get any like surprise prowess triggers. So it all depends on what their follow-up here is post Brainstorm. And the opponent shocks in a land. So that means like the block is no longer safe. Like, we block, they just cast something, prowess goes off, and then our Guardian Idol doesn't even trade with a monk token. So that's pretty unfortunate. And things have just taken a turn for the worse, and the opponent drops a Death Shadow for good measure. So anyway, this is me being desperate for some action. That's the problem with sacking a Mind Stone there, though, is that it drops us below 7 mana. And so, had we just taken our draw for the turn, because like, I was mostly fishing for like a One Ring or something, but we have so many whammies on 7 mana. We have Devourer, we have Ugin, Eye of the Storms, and so had we just kept the Mind Stone and just did like Heart of the Cards, like, would have been better off right there. So now Chalice is interesting. It's sort of, it might be too little, too late. But I'm just trying to think about what to do, and then I was like, okay, I guess I can just grab the Chalice right now by cracking a Mind Stone. So I'm going to play and crack Mind Stone and just play a Chalice for 1 and try and just survive till next turn when we can play Devourer of Destiny. So, like, the thing is, the opponent can still get a ton of damage through via prowess, even though Chalice counters stuff, and the opponent has a Dismember right there. So they're going to Dismember their own Dragon's Rage Channeler to grow the Death Shadow and get the prowess triggers. And then Temur Battle Rage means that we are super dead, so we pack it in. That one, you know, turn 1 Chalice would have been game over against that deck, you know. So like there was some you know, so like I think it is a reasonable matchup. We just got sort of flooded, and like couple small decisions could have flipped the game, though maybe like Temur Battle Rage meant we were super dunzo anyway. So facing against a fellow artifact deck with turn 1 Retrofitter and Ornithopter. So gonna turn 1 Ugin's Labyrinth and slam a Chalice for one. It doesn't appear to be, like, it's not usually super strong against artifact strategies. I mean, the opponent does have Retrofitters, so like there are some ones in their deck. But that's sort of like the wombo combo, is that if you throw a Ornithopter into play, Retrofitter can turn it right away into a 4/4. Also, it's just a good mana sink as the game goes on. So opponent also has blue-white mana open. Right, there's Inventors Fair. So, and the thing is, on turn 1, we could have also just played a Mana Rock to try and vault up into like bigger mana, but it just felt like the safety net of Chalice is potentially helpful in the, you know, it's not guaranteed to be helpful, but it's potentially helpful. So we're just going to slam a Mind Stone, keep the One Ring, that's going to be pretty nice. Alright, and the opponent is going to activate Retrofitter and create a servo. So now we're going to get slapped for 5 damage. And, okay, so opponent's missing a land drop. Definitely not cracking the Mind Stone. And so, try and decide here if we should play Forsaken Monument or the One Ring. And I think Forsaken Monument is the way better longer term plan. So we're going to attempt to cast it right here, and the opponent has a Metallic Rebuke, which is pretty brutal because we would have started getting tons of life, would have a million mana available. So that is sort of rough. Alright, so opponent misses another land up. So that means they have like tons of action. So it could be that their affinity count is just not quite high enough to start spilling out their hand. So hoping they just don't have tons more counters. So we're gonna put the One Ring on the stack, and it works right here. So we have Warping Wail up. We're gonna draw off the One Ring. But meanwhile, the opponent is still able to profitably use their mana. So I didn't really think it through, but with the opponent sacrificing to make a Thopter here, you could see I've clicked the auto pass. I needed to unclick that to get rid of their Thopter. So you could see me trying to do it here, but the thing is, it auto pass, like I basically gave up priority already. So I needed to do the Warping Wail to get rid of their Thopter before Retrofitter untaps, because they can just turn it into the 4/4, you know, at will now. So that was a misplay right there. If you wanted to get rid of the Thopter, that was the window to do it, and I passed through it. So that was an unforced error right there. Now we do have ring protection, so the opponent's just going to pass. I'm going to fire off a Warping Wail just to try and boost the mana. So right now, we don't quite have enough Ugin mana without the Scion. So I'm going to put one out there just in case we end up needing that. We have like the One Ring, so like we should be pretty good. And Inventors Fair is covering our One Ring damage at the moment. Kozilek's Command. So that is really good. We are facing potentially a ton of damage, including some of it as unblockable damage thanks to the Cryptic Coat on the other side. So decide to draw off the One Ring. Like, really would love to hit a land right here. Alright, so there's a Blast Zone, which could be good to knock out the Retrofitter Foundry, but it doesn't seem like at least the right move to do right now. And I'm stalling on playing Ugin right here because I want to. The thing is, the opponent's gonna have a pair of 4/4s. Like, we can cast Ugin, get rid of the Cryptic Coat, but then there's still gonna be like a ton of creatures to possibly attack Ugin. I'd like to be able to, if possible, preserve Ugin, just let it stick around. Now, this is a sequencing mistake by me. Like, if I knew I was going to Kozilek's Command, like, I want to do it at end of turn here, but here's the problem, is that we've given ourselves ring protection, which means we also can't target ourselves with the mode. So I eventually realized that and decide, you know, because we could choose like an exile graveyard mode or something, you know, to get kill the creature, but this is me kicking myself, being like, oh, why didn't I, you know, cast the Kozilek's Command, then cast the One Ring, or with the protection on the stack do it. So so that's another like little misplay that hopefully won't cost us. So the opponent plays a Call, which is pretty dang good with like Retrofitter and like cheap artifacts. You could just keep the cards flowing. So
It's an awesome card. I might try it out in like Brawl sometime. It just seems like a fun one. Unfortunately for them, Warping Wail is just like a super clean answer to that. So we're just going to get rid of their Akal. Nice thing is that Kozilek's command can do some damage because they have some 0 mana creatures. But once again, we still have ring protection. So despite like being less mana efficient, I'm just going to hold on to it. So would have been way nicer to do it at the end of my turn or before ring protection. But moving on, activating the 1 ring, drawing a bunch of stuff. And now that the threats are sort of more manageable at the moment, and the Radiant Fountain's super clutch right here to get us some life. Going to cast Ugin and take down the Cryptic Coat. So that's like a pretty threatening card that's now gone. And so here's the question, do we want the mana or do we want the life gain on the card? I opt for the life gain because it's, you know, it pads our life total against our own 1 ring and their threats. And we already know the opponent plays Metallic Rebuke. The opponent has at least that kind of counter. So while they're tapped out, we're going to fire off Kozilek's command for the draw and exile a creature mode. So just gonna take down one of their 4/4s, just really try and just neutralize their threats right here. So we take down a 4/4, draw an extra card, and barring something like crazy, like some equipment landing, like it should be okay. Now the ring is gonna be, you know, dinging us, but the opponent also has Ugin to worry about. All right, so there's another Akal. So let's see. All right, so they're gonna focus on the Ugin, but that means that our life total is pretty dang safe, especially with Inventors Fair pitching in to like cover our 1 ring damage. So now it feels like we're in the driver's seat. The opponent had a strong start, but it seems like we've taken over. So Devourer is just like a massive blocker that, you know, maybe they have swords for or something, but it's going to cover us really well against the threats they have. So decide to just cast Devourer. I'm thinking through the options, like, because we have Karn to like grab something, but ultimately decide just to slam a Devourer. And we sort of get double exile trigger. There's only 1 target, so Akal is going to bite the dust. We're going to slam Devourer. And once again, faced with the Ugin choice of like adding mana or like, it still seems like gaining some life is useful here. So I'm going to gain a life and just discard an extra land. We have Warping Wail up, and so it's going to take something pretty dang good from the opponent to chew through like all of our like stuff we have going on. Not to mention, we have a spare Ugin tucked under our Labyrinth. So, all right, so opponent found a Thought Monitor. So early on in the game, they were just a little bit mana screwed. They probably had a bunch of like Thought Monitors stuck in their hands. So we know they have counters. So in response, with just fewer cards in hand, I'm going to cast Warping Wail to get the Scion and get rid of the Thought Monitor before they possibly draw into like a Metallic Rebuke or something like that. So, and yeah, the opponent's seen enough at that point. So we're on to the next game. This hand is potentially prone to Flood, but it does have Chalice available. All right, so Attune with Aether from the opponent. So it's some sort of energy strategy. I don't know if it's like a combo strategy or, you know, but not one that you commonly see in Timeless. So with the information I have, I'm like, you know, because it could be like the aggro version with like Amped Raptors or Guide of Souls. And so here's Amped Raptors. So the opponent has just some sort of energy strategy, but it looks fairly similar to like classic red-white energy. So we'll have to, they seem to be going deeper on the energy theme to splash into green for Attune with Aether. So we don't want Guide of Souls landing and making our life really bad. So I'm going to Chalice for 1 right here, even though it means letting the Ocelot Pride starting to make stuff. But like, we have we have some good cleanup stuff eventually. All right, so there's an Ajani. The opponent's going to be able to shell out some decent damage right here. And the Ocelot Pride gets its token. All right, Ugin the Spirit Dragon is going to be really key later on, like if we can, you know, to take care of this board. So going to slam a Mind Stone, and then we'll be able to hold up Warping Wail. And at current time, the target I want to get rid of is Ocelot Pride. So the opponent's going to attempt to flip their Ajani with a Galvanic Blast on their own cat, but it gets countered by Chalice. Now, like I said before, like there is a reason to put stuff in your graveyard through Chalice, like if you want to like eventually escape a Flage or turn on Delirium, you know. So they might have known that was going to happen, but either way, Chalice doing some great work. So Unstable Amulet is going to find them a land, and they're going to shock it in. So I was braced myself for like a Goblin Bombardment. Alright, so the opponent attempts to dash Ragavan, gets eaten by the Chalice. Chalice is working overtime right here. So going to Warping Wail and going to get rid of the Ocelot Pride. And like Warping Wail entering the format is the reason I was so excited to revisit this deck, because it helps shore up your aggro matchups and like certain combo matchups like Show and Tell. You have like a sorcery counter in Warping Wail. So as we decide on Ugin Eye of the Storms, let me know in the comments. So I used to play 4 Ugin the Spirit Dragon, but now I'm doing a 2-2 split of Eye of the Storms and Spirit Dragon. And there's like pros and cons to each. Like Eye of Storms being 7 is like a big deal. Like it's just easier to cast. And it could sort of function as a sweeper if you like string off a bunch of spells and like exile stuff. I also like the life gain and the card draw. But for a matchup like this, you could see like how potent Ugin the Spirit Dragon would be, just slamming it and wrathing everything. So, but in the artifact matchup, Eye of the Storms is really strong. So let me know what you think. Like how would you do the Ugin thing? So we could see another energy payoff from the opponents. They have an Aether Revolt down, but another Ragavan's going to bite the dust. But they are going to get some value off it by dinging us with Amulet, but it's time to clean things up right now with big Ugin. So checking, you know, all the mana values on the other side, make sure I have it all figured out. But this is going to be the hammer right here. We're going to just need to minus for 4, and that's going to take care of any opponent that's seen enough. So they were mega dead right there. So this is a pretty dang strong hand right here. Ugin's Labyrinth with Devourer trigger. And the question is, do we want to keep any of these cards? And decide to keep Kozilek's Command. Like, it's just a great card in the dark. It can cover a lot of different matchups. So going to tuck a Devourer under there and play a Chalice for 1 on turn 1. So didn't get Thought Seized or Inquisitioned on turn 1, so we'll have to see what's going on the other side of the battlefield. Alright. The opponent's lining up something. Alright, Rot Curse, Rakshasa. Interesting card. It's not going to be anywhere near good against us. Like, we barely have any creatures to give Decayed to. So Forsaken Monument seems super strong. Like, black doesn't have any way to deal with it once it resolves. So just going to keep that on top, and we'll be able to play it next turn thanks to the Mind Stone right now. So we'll have to see what the opponent plays. Alright, the opponent slams a Liliana the Veil. So that's going to start eating the cards in our hand, but pretty soon we'll be able to have like really massive mana production. So the question is what to discard. In this instance, it seems best to discard Kozilek's Command, because the Rot Cursed Rakshasa is just going to get 1 hit on us. Like, we don't have to worry about removing it. And we want to be able to play out as many lands as possible for the Forsaken Monument. Now, we will want a Kozilek's Command once we land Monument and like can go wild with it. So Rot Cursed Rakshasa is going to go in, and the opponent's able to get rid of some dead cards at the moment. So they pitch a Ghost Vacuum, which is now locked out because of Chalice. So, but we're going to slam a Forsaken Monument, and which we know is like basically completely safe against mono black. Alright, Unstoppable Slasher from the opponent, and another discard. This case we will pitch the land because Kozilek's Command is going to be able to go wild right here with the mana doubling. Zhalfirin Void is really nice. We want just as much mana as possible to pour into this Kozilek's Command. And I'll go ahead and link a mono black deck of my own. I play mono black all the time, I love it. And right now, the most potent thing to do is to pass the turn, wait for them to uptick Liliana, and then in response, so here comes the uptick, in response Kozilek's Command. So it's just going to force them to discard while we get to, you know, go wild with Kozilek's Command. So we're going to get rid of their Unstoppable Slasher and make a huge army of Eldrazi spawn. So we actually have an X equals 9 Kozilek's Command right here. I'm just making sure the mana is all correctly calculated. So we're going to make 9 Eldrazi. Once again,
with Monument out, they're going to be like a massive army, almost like an instant kill by themselves at this point in the game. So the opponent pitches a card to their own Liliana, and they pack it in. They're mega dead right there. So on to the next game. This is a reasonable but slow hand, which is exactly what you don't want to see against turn 1 Soul Scour Mage. We don't even have like a Chalice. So I don't know, maybe that was like a horrible draw to draw Forsaken Monument. So we are going to eat an absolute ton of damage, and we're going second. Like if we were going first, like we could have maybe like already been well on our way towards like a 1-ring here. So we're eating 9 damage on turn 2. So fall to 11, and it just feels like we're miles behind. So Warping Wail is pretty clutch, but we are out of lands though. So with Prowess, it's just too risky. I'm just going to get rid of it right now. Like, they could go Swift Spear into Bolt, and we could still be, like, super in trouble, though. So, alright, Roiling Vortex. And, alright, so, as bad as that is, that's still not as crazy as what was happening to us. So we draw a land, but we don't have any 7-drops to tuck under it. So, that's a little bit annoying. But we will be able to go, like, Mind Stone into Mind Stone and set up for a Forsaken Monument next turn. So like really just trying to like hold out right here against Burn, because they had like an absolute power turn 2 against us. Bracing for impact here. The opponent has something on our end step, and they're going to play with fire. So not only is it going to ding us, but it's going to help set up their draw. Right, so at least they bottomed it. So they're going to take a little damage off their Roiling Vortex, and we're like just really trying to just be able to play a Forsaken Monument right here. Land would be an amazing drop. Alright, so they rip a Lightning Bolt. We fall to 5. I'm hoping they just run out of gas somehow, but they have a Skewer the Critics. So we fall to 2, which means we fall to 1 because of Roiling Vortex. So, not great. And we draw another Forsaken Monument. So a land there would have been so clutch, because it could have gone Forsaken Monument into like Kozilek's command to try and gain our way out of the Roiling Vortex. Now we're not technically dead here because we have instant speed colorless spell, but the opponent does have anti-life gain tech and a deck full of burn spells, so we die. So that's one way this deck can lose, is to like super quick burnout starts, and like with a little bit sluggish start of our own, though, like a Chalice on 1 basically instant wins that matchup. So alright, so the opponent is just going to Surveil right away, and okay, then they're going to Grief us. So I was a little worried it was like Show and Tell. I'm like, oh man, because sometimes they fetch Surveils, but they're just going to Grief us. Alright, so they take Forsaken Monument. I thought for certain they'd take Devourer to deny us like all the mana off the Ugin's Labyrinth. Gonna keep Chalice, and that's what those Devourers are in there, you know, to power up the Labyrinths and to help us find Chalices way faster. So, going to Chalice for 1, considering it's like some sort of like scam deck we're facing, like they're probably running Reanimates and Thought Seizes and stuff, so, and not to mention that the card they pitched into it was a Deathrite Shaman, so we know Chalice for 1's good against them. Love to see them just surveilling and passing. Alright, what now? Seems like we want some more information, so I'm going to go with the Crystal Grotto to scry. And this is one benefit of playing Colorless, is you get untapped scry or surveil lands, like basically as many as you want. Like there's so many that have been printed, like functional reprints now, and it's exceptionally powerful being able to like dig through your deck in this manner. So alright, so the opponent maybe holding up Bowmasters, or maybe they just have a handful of like Deathrite Shamans or something like that. So they, or you know, the opponent is just, you know, not even exactly sure what's going on in their hand, because they might be completely locked out right now. So gonna slam Karn. They do have some sort of something that they're passing priority with. So the question is what to get from the wish board here. So minusing Karn right away. And ideally it would want like a 1-ring just to keep the gas flowing, but if they have a Bowmasters, like that could actually be really bad. So I'm gonna opt for Skysovereign. Now Skysovereign, if, you know, because if they played a Bowmasters end of turn, we just slam Skysovereign and kill the Bowmasters, you know. So that makes it awkward for them if they have it. Now we can minus Karn again
to get our card draw and know that it's like protected by the Skysovereign. So going to minus Karn and then now get the One Ring. I'm feeling pretty good. Not to mention Karn's +1 can animate an artifact, which you can use to like get around crewing Skysovereign. You can get it's like attack trigger where you bolt something. So Skysovereign works particularly nice with Karn the Great Creator. And just in case they have Bowmasters here, I'm actually not going to draw it in a turn. Like, just don't want to give them, you know, they can't direct the damage at us, but I don't want to grow their Orc army if we can avoid it. So just going to pass and just draw on their turn, just to make them waste mana if that's what they were trying to do. All right, so the opponent's cracking their fetch, and let's see what they got in store for us. All right, so it's a Shieldred. So going to definitely draw before Shieldred hits. They're going to be able to punish our draws with that. And Skysovereign doesn't deal enough damage to take out a Shieldred, but we have like a million ways to get rid of it. So Shieldred's going to ding us right here. So we are flooding out a little bit, but we have like a really healthy life total. So I'm just going to just draw into the Shieldred with the One Ring despite that, because really just trying to find some action to take down Shieldred at this point. So another Chalice and a Mind Stone is not very helpful. So would love to keep Karn around, so I'm actually going to slam Skysovereign. And I'm going to deal 3 to it, but it's not enough to kill it. So I'm just going to animate it and just so it could play defense for Karn. And slam a Mind Stone here, so we can still just draw again next turn with the One Ring into active Shieldred, and we have like such a robust life total and ways to gain it back. But what we have now is enough mana to bring back the Devourer from our Labyrinth if we don't draw anything useful. Or if we don't want to just activate the One Ring right here. So Radiant Fountain's really nice. That takes, you know, undoes one Shieldred trigger. So I'm going to play the Radiant Fountain and just put the Devourer into hand right here. Because the opponent could have like Mana Drain right here or like some counter magic. And so the cast trigger off Devourer is like really clutch and like getting rid of Shieldred. So see if the opponent has anything. Alright, so they let it happen. And like I said, like the opponent is not really doing anything, but they might have like all 1-drops in there, like Thought Seizes, Reanimates, Death Rites, you know, so activate the one. I keep expecting a Bowmasters to hit, but it just never does. So going to animate the Skysovereign, and we'll be able to kill them at our leisure. Like I'm not going to try and like go attack him with Skysovereign at this point. Like I'm just going to wait, and yeah, the opponent's seen enough. So we move right into the next game. Double Devourer is pretty nice, so really be able to look at our top draw, but we're playing against Devourer of Destiny in this matchup, so I'm like shocked. I'm like, okay, it's not one you see that often. Now they are definitely playing a different version than us, so they actually have colored mana. They have Null Drifter, but they have the turn 1 Labyrinth. No play though. We currently don't have a Labyrinth. So that's the main thing I'm looking for. So first Devourer trigger goes off. I'm just going to keep all those exiled and wait to see what the second one has in store for us. Also doesn't have a Labyrinth. A Labyrinth would have been so nice just to like accelerate our mana into like a One Ring. Like, so pretty unfortunate. Did find a Chalice though. It looks unlikely to be that relevant this matchup. Ugin the Spirit Dragon, like, we need mana source. We need something else that's not quite doing it right here. So really unfortunate. Despite like double Devourer triggers, like didn't really find anything good. All right, the opponent plays a cash grab, and we see Omniscience hit the bin. So I'm thinking this is like a Shifting Woodland kind of deck. You know, the cash grab and Omniscience make me think that's what they're going for. Trying to hit Delirium, and then they can free cast some like Eldrazi's and stuff like that. Seems to be the approach they're having. And our draws just keep getting worse. Just drawing 7-drops. I mean, that's a risk with this deck. You know, you put the 7-drops in there, you're going to draw them sometimes without Labyrinth. But like I said, I don't think Chalice for one does anything in this matchup. So I'm going to just
play a Mind Stone to try and get a One Ring out, but the opponent has an Ugin's Binding, which is... that's exceptionally bad news. This seems like a nightmare matchup. Like, Ugin's Binding is like really strong against us. There's finally a Labyrinth. So the way Ugin's Binding works is that once they cast a colorless spell with mana value 7 or greater, they get to basically get a 0 mana Cyclonic Rift from their graveyard. So the bouncing the Mind Stone sort of time walked us, but also put their instant in the graveyard to get basically flashback for free later on. So opponent has their One Ring in play, and it's looking pretty bleak from us. Like, they have another Labyrinth, and it's charged up. So they basically already have mana to fire off the like the Ugin's Binding anytime they want and just rift us. So I'm playing as optimistically as possible, even though it's pretty bleak for us right now. So drawing with the One Ring, like, I know all of our stuffs can get bounced eventually, and the thing is, like, we just now found our first Labyrinth, so I'm gonna play out as much stuff as possible, even though it's probably not long on the battlefield, and playing out the Chalice for 1 for like due diligence also. So the opponent activates One Ring. And here's something I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting them to also be rocking Show and Tell. So it looks like they probably have multiple ways to get the Omniscience on the battlefield. So considering that it's very likely our stuff's going to get bounced, our non-land stuff, I'm going to put a Mutavault into play and see what happens. So there's the Null Drifter and there's the Ugin's Binding. So I make a mistake right here. I just click through it. I should have cracked the Mind Stone to... maybe draw like another Ugin's Labyrinth, and that could help turn things around for us. But it's pretty dang bleak, though, with the opponent with active Omniscience. Because, if we can cast a Devour, we can get rid of Omniscience. But opponent has One Ring, has Null Drifter. Like, we're going to start getting Annihilator. So this is really what breaks the camel's back right here. The straw that breaks the Boseiju nuking our Labyrinth, taking out 2 mana. We don't have any wastes in this deck, was brutal. Like, we might have been able to fight back with the hard cast Devourer, but the opponent just had all the bases covered right there with the Boseiju, so we're going to pack it in. This deck is super fun. I love playing it, and Warping Wail made me super excited to visit it again because, like I said, it just does a whole lot to shore up different matchups, and it's just a versatile card. A cheap card. It helps like lower our curve, and it could possibly ramp us sometimes. Anyway, I just really was enjoying this card, and you could see it in action throughout all these games. Very happy to have it, and it helps this deck pack even more punch. Always love Chalice of the Void. I play a ton of Chalice decks. Ask me about I have a million different Chalice decks, so always happy to play this card. And really was excited to try Ugin Eye of the Storms. And frankly, the only reason I'm playing 2 is because I only had 2 copies. I'm not done drafting the set yet. And I would have rocked all 4 of them had I had them, and just for science just to try and figure it out. But ended up doing the split. But you could see like some matchups like Ugin Eye of Storms is like what you want, and other matchups Ugin the Spirit Dragon is what you want. So like I still am not sure how to split them, or if you should go all one or all the other. But they're both pretty strong, and maybe they should be split in this manner. So yeah, that's the deck. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see even more nonsense, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for your support. Your engagement with the channel helps me know what the people want. Thank you.